This is the weekly roundup on the EAC News channel, your look back at the week that was in the Kingdom of Wonder. A very good evening to you. My name is Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and we begin on Monday, the 20th of September. The World Health Organization's representative in Cambodia, Dr. Lee Ailan, says that the kingdom's decision to vaccinate children from 6 to 11 years old is a risk-based approach and a balanced decision. This follows the Prime Minister's launch of vaccinations for this age group last Friday, saying he was preparing for the reopening of primary schools. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has the story.
The Prime Minister launched vaccinations for children aged 6 to 11 at the Peace Palace on Friday. He says this is the royal government's decision in order to reopen primary schools after secondary schools were successfully reopened last week. No vaccination means no returning to schools. Unvaccinated students can still continue learning, but only at home. For those returning to school, vaccination cards are being checked upon arrival. Phnom Penh mother of twins, Vieri At, says at first she was hesitant about getting her 6-year-old twins vaccinated, but says it's the only way they can go back to school. Her twins, Niet Borpek and Niet Bormay Nong, say they're scared of needles, but are now excited to see their classmates when primary schools are allowed to reopen. The WHO's Dr. Lee Ailan says she appreciates the kingdom's vaccination effort, which is setting a very good example in saving lives, although she says that children of this age group are more likely to experience only mild symptoms if they become infected. UNICEF says the same. In a statement released the day before the next phase of the royal government's vaccination campaign was launched, it said while evidence on COVID-19 vaccination among children is still emerging, this has to be weighed against the risk of keeping children away from school for a prolonged amount of time. The capital's primary schools have been closed now for 7 long months. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
The Ministry of Water Resources and Meteorology has warned that there'll be some very heavy weather over Cambodia this week. It's warning of heavy rain and an increased risk of flooding. To make things worse, a typhoon is heading for central Vietnam, whose effects will be felt in Cambodia. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko has more.
Cambodia has only just recovered from floods along the Thai border and has been experiencing light to moderate rain over the past few days. But over the next 48 hours, active low-pressure systems in the South China Sea will bring heavy rains and floods to the lowlands, including the provinces of Phnom Penh, Battambang, Bang, Kampong Spun, and Binh Tai Minh Chey, where the Mangkhut Borei River is already rising. The same low-pressure system is expected to strengthen a typhoon that is forecast to hit Vietnam on Saturday. Remnants of that storm will be felt in Cambodia's northeastern areas, where residents are warned to be vigilant. The ministry says it will continue to issue updates over the next few days. While low-lying areas should be braced for flooding, the ministry says heavy rains will also affect the province of Koh Khong. It is also warning fishermen to be extra cautious due to rough seas. Yuri Matosko, EAC News.
The woman who accuses Britain's Prince Andrew of rape has until close of business on Monday, New York time, to ask a court to change the way she can legally serve papers. Virginia Giuffre's lawyers have been trying for weeks to serve the papers on the British prince. Under US law, a defendant must be served actual papers of a case so that they have been notified of the charges against them. But this is no ordinary defendant. He's Queen Elizabeth II's third child and has not been seen in public for months. Physically handing him a file of papers isn't something people can just do. The papers were originally handed to a police officer guarding Prince Andrew's home near Windsor Castle. The New York court and the prince's legal team said that wasn't good enough. The papers were then sent to the prince's California-based lawyer, and while the New York court said that was sufficient, the prince's legal team disagree. They have until this Friday to appeal that ruling and are also reportedly planning an appeal against the case itself. They want it thrown out because a key witness in the case is dead and the civil suit was filed only years after his death. That man is convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who committed suicide in his prison cell. He was once a good friend of Prince Andrew's. Virginia Giuffre claims it was Epstein who set her up for sex with the prince numerous times when she was 17 years old. She's now 38. Prince Andrew, who is also known as the Duke of York, has repeatedly denied Giuffre's accusations. His US-based lawyer told a court last week that the case is a baseless, non-viable, and potentially unlawful lawsuit. The next few days will tell if this case will even go ahead. Now for a look at some other news making international headlines this Monday, the 20th of September.
A volcano on the remote Spanish island of La Palma has erupted, sending fountains of lava streaming towards homes, and a plume of smoke and ash into the air above the Cumbre Vieja National Park. About 5,000 people have been evacuated. Authorities had already begun evacuating people and farm animals before the eruption. Dozens of homes have been consumed by the flow of lava, with dozens more in its path. More than 20,000 tremors were felt over a period of 8 days before the volcano finally roared back to life. It had been dormant since 1971.
A capsized riverboat has claimed the lives of 10 people in southwest China. Another 5 are still missing. The ship overturned shortly after it left port in Guizhou province. Preliminary investigations suggest that the ship was blown over by strong winds. Local authorities say the ship was overloaded when the accident happened. At least 46 people were on board, exceeding the maximum capacity of 40. Over a dozen rescue teams have been dispatched to join the search and rescue operation, but heavy downpours and undercurrents have hampered their efforts. 31 passengers have been saved so far.
And US authorities have accelerated the removal of migrants, mostly Haitians, from the border with Mexico. More than 10,000 migrants have been sheltering under the Del Rio International Bridge that connects the city of Del Rio with Ciudad Acuña in Mexico. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says transfers of migrants will continue in order to ensure that irregular migrants are swiftly taken into custody and removed from the United States. Officials are working with nations where the migrants began their journeys, such as Haiti, Brazil, and Chile, to accept the migrants back. Typically, migrants who arrive at the border and turn themselves into officials can claim asylum if they fear being returned to their home country.
The royal government has declared what it's called a strong commitment to peace and stability on Tuesday's International Peace Day. To mark the occasion, Prime Minister Hun Sen released a statement expressing the desire to protect the people of Cambodia at all costs. He says the bitter experiences and lessons that Cambodia learned during more than 2 decades of war and genocide have made the country better understand the values of peace and stability that are fundamental to the nation's development. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has more.
Prime Minister Hun Sen releasing a statement to mark International Peace Day, stressing that for almost 23 years, since 29 December 1998, the end of the war on the motherland of Cambodia through his win-win policies has brought about true peace and complete national unity for the first time in the nation's history, which he says is a source of pride for the kingdom. The Prime Minister says that for over 2 decades, Cambodia's economic growth has accelerated, and although Cambodia is being affected by the pandemic, he says economic growth for 2021 is expected to recover to around 2.5% after a contraction of 9.9% last year. He says in spite of this difficult situation, he is reaffirming the royal government's commitment to directing its policies and resources to continuing the fight against COVID-19 through the vaccination campaign for 13 million people, as well as supporting people's livelihoods, helping maintain the business balance, and accelerating the economic recovery by increasing attention on developing health and social protection systems. The Prime Minister has highlighted that Cambodia is extremely proud to have transformed from a nation protected by a UN peacekeeping force to one that contributes to peacekeeping missions around the world. He says between 2006 and 2021, Cambodia has sent a total of 7,527 troops to UN peacekeeping missions in Sudan, Lebanon, Cyprus, Syria, Mali, and Yemen. The Prime Minister concluded by saying that Cambodia will continue to contribute to the protection of world peace, stability, and security through cooperation in the fight against global challenges and demonstrating a strong commitment to the spirit of unity and international brotherhood. Reyes Soko, EAC News.
A new container terminal at the Phnom Penh Autonomous Port has been opened. Construction began in 2019 and was completed just a few months ago. The launch ceremony was attended by Minister of Public Works and Transport, Sun Chantol. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko has the details.
The new container terminal upgrades the capacity of Phnom Penh Autonomous Port to 400,000 container units per year, an increase of 300,000. The terminal now covers an area of 2.74 hectares, upgraded at a cost of $18.4 million. Director General of the Phnom Penh Autonomous Port, Hei Bavi, says the number of containers handled at the port has increased significantly in recent years. Another expansion project is scheduled to start next year, taking capacity to 500,000 units. The final phase will see the port taking to its full capacity of 900,000 containers per year. If the COVID-19 pandemic seems to have affected local businesses, Cambodian exports have been rising. According to the Ministry of Commerce, between January and August this year, Cambodia shipped $7 billion in garments, footwear, and travel products. That's an increase of $160 million on last year. Prime Minister Hun Sen says pandemic-induced shocks to the production chains of important producers, such as Bangladesh, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Brazil, have forced a diversion of orders that has benefited the kingdom. Yuri Matosko, EAC News.
EAC News has welcomed another visit from the Ministry of Information and staff from the National Television of Cambodia. The visit was part of the ministry's exchange experience, in which EAC News and TVK shared information about each other's workflow and production process to better understand what goes into broadcasting TV news, most especially live events. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has the story.
The EAC News team, playing host to senior officials of the Ministry of Information and TVK, describing how the kingdom's first English-language TV news channel works. Channel manager Andrew Barnes Roberts explained how the concept came into being and how EAC News' core values of accuracy, balance, fairness, integrity, and professionalism are woven into its workflow and daily production process.
This is actually the second time the Ministry of Information has visited EAC News, so obviously we're very encouraged by the interest that they're showing in what we're doing. We've also had a very good collaboration with TVK in the first 3 months that we've been on air, and I'm looking forward to seeing that collaboration deepen as EAC News continues to grow.
EAC News has teamed up with TVK to broadcast a number of live events in recent weeks, including the Prime Minister's launching of the first 2 phases of the Kingdom's child vaccination campaign, as well as the handover of the Morodok Decho National Sports Complex. EAC News is the fastest-growing news service in the Kingdom, with month-on-month audience growth across all its digital and social media platforms of over 1,000%. Reyes Soko, EAC News.
Now for a look at news making international headlines this Tuesday, the 21st of September.
Lava flow has destroyed about 100 homes so far on La Palma, in Spain's Canary Islands. The wall of molten stone is creeping through villages, putting hundreds more homes at risk, with over 5,000 people already evacuated. Thick smoke and flames have engulfed buildings as the lava makes its way slowly down to the sea. The Canary's Volcanology Institute says that when the lava does reach the sea, it could create a cloud of toxic gases as it rapidly cools. A spokesperson for Spain's military emergency unit says that might even lead to explosions. Despite the destruction, the Tourism Ministry says the eruption should be seen as an opportunity to encourage people to visit the island.
Coca farmers have clashed with police in La Paz, Bolivia, trading rocks and tear gas. Protesters say they are simply defending their rights. Authorities are pressing down on their traditional market to sell coca products. Sales are now controlled by the central government instead of local communities. Authorities are angry at a rival coca growing collective that is promising to bring growers together for progress. For centuries, people in the Andes have chewed coca leaves to ward off the effects of high altitude. Coca is also brewed into tea and considered sacred by many indigenous people.
And the Colombian army has seized over 3 tons of cocaine from alleged guerrillas of the National Liberation Army. The anti-narcotics operation took place 25 kilometers outside the Tibu municipality, just northeast of the border with Venezuela. 3.3 tons of cocaine hydrochloride were found. They have an estimated street value of $5.2 million.
EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, 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 wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear. Prime Minister Hun Sen will weigh in on Wednesday night's global COVID-19 summit under the theme Ending the Pandemic and Building Back Better. The event is being hosted by US President Joe Biden on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York. Given the 11-hour time difference between New York and Phnom Penh, the Prime Minister will not physically participate in the summit, but he is submitting written remarks that will be conveyed to other world leaders. His office says those remarks will center on the urgent need to jointly stop COVID-19 in a sincere and humanitarian manner without any hidden political agenda. The Prime Minister will also talk to the importance of all vaccines recognized by the WHO as being a global strategic good. His office says he also intends to share Cambodia's effective measures and comprehensive strategy in the fight against the pandemic for what he calls resilient and sustainable development in the post-pandemic period. His remarks will conclude with the message, that no one is safe until everyone is safe. US President Joe Biden announced plans for the summit last week and made reference to it during his address at the UN General Assembly on Tuesday. He says more equitable vaccine distribution and more ambitious vaccine targets will be at the top of the agenda.
I'll be announcing additional commitments as we seek to advance the fight against COVID-19 and hold ourselves accountable around specific targets on 3 key challenges: saving lives now, vaccinating the world, and building back better.
The summit couldn't come at a better time, with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres pulling no punches when he addressed the issue of vaccines as well as climate change on Tuesday.
A majority of the wealthier world vaccinated, over 90% of Africans still waiting for the first dose. This is a moral indictment of the state of our world. It is an obscenity. We passed the science test, but we are getting an F in ethics. Excellencies, the climate alarm bells are also ringing at fever pitch. The recent report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change was a code red for humanity. We see the warning signs in every continent and region: scorching temperatures, shocking biodiversity loss, polluted air, water, and natural spaces, and climate-related disasters at every turn. As we saw recently, not even this city, the financial capital of the world, is immune. Climate scientists tell us it is not too late to keep alive the 1.5-degree goal of the Paris Climate Agreement. But the window is rapidly closing.
World leaders next meet in Scotland from the end of October to discuss climate change. Outcomes of Joe Biden's global COVID-19 summit are expected on Thursday. Booster shots for the general public are to be rolled out from the middle of next month. The Ministry of Health announced on Tuesday evening that the royal government will start providing booster shots against COVID-19 in the capital, to be followed by other provinces. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has the details.
Phnom Penh's booster shots will roll out from the 11th of October. That is for adults who were initially vaccinated at least 4 months ago. The kingdom will use Sinovac as the booster dose. Out of 14 districts in the capital, only 11 will start on that date. Phnom Penh, Chroy Changvar, and Prek Pino districts will start providing booster shots from the 30th of October. It'll be the same date for Kandal. According to the Health Ministry, other provinces will kick off booster vaccinations between the 8th of November and 16th of December. Cambodia has already inoculated over 800,000 people with booster shots. It started with frontline healthcare workers and government officials. Since the 10th of February, the kingdom has fully vaccinated over 72% of the population over the age of 12. 5 days after the launching of the vaccination for children aged 6 to 11, the royal government says that it's already vaccinated over 900,000 of this age